One street is lined with mature trees. The other is 6 lanes of concrete baking under open sun. Same population density, same latitude. One is in Chengdu, the other in Houston. This isn't a difference in nature, it's a difference in policy. Someone decided that American streets didn't need trees, that car throughput and parking mattered more than shade. The question is, who made that call, and what it's costing us now? To isolate policy from mere geography, researchers rely on systematic data rather than visual impressions. The global 30-meter Landsat tree canopy cover, version 4, and the USDA tree canopy cover raster series allow planners to analyze the exact proportion of ground shaded by woody vegetation. But comparing a sprawling American suburb to a high-density Asian high-rise core creates a misleading picture. Built form mechanically dictates how much space is physically left for trees. To solve this, analysts use the WorldPop 2020 1-kilometer gridded dataset to calculate precise population densities, matching cities on comparable density bands. When we control for these physical constraints, the data reveals that density does not automatically eliminate trees. For example, comparing Phoenix to Chengdu's low-density peripheral districts, both averaging around 300 people per square kilometer, shows Chengdu's canopy at 27%, more than double Phoenix's 13%. In denser bands, Hangzhou maintains a 24% canopy in its core, competing closely with Houston's 30% despite massive vertical development. Using these controlled, density-matched pairs proves that human choices, rather than mathematical necessity, dictate the tree cover on our streets. These canopy gaps persist across entire metropolitan networks, proving the divergence is wider than a comparison between showcase districts and neglected industrial corridors. When analyzing broad municipal sectors rather than isolated green zones, the data reveals a uniform policy at work. This systematic greening reflects a regional planning philosophy heavily influenced by Singapore's Garden City model, where vegetation acts as a mandatory utility rather than an aesthetic luxury. Administrative standards embed this greening directly into daily municipal operations across China, treating tree-lined corridors as essential public health infrastructure. These mandates apply to residential side streets and major thoroughfares alike. In contrast, the typical American arterial road remains exposed, reflecting competing regulatory priorities. The resulting street-level shade reveals how 2 distinct planning structures manage the public right-of-way. The underlying machinery of each regulatory system institutionalized these opposite approaches, dictating whether an ordinary street inherits a mature canopy or remains permanently exposed to the sun. In 2015, China's Ministry of Housing and Urban-Rural Development launched the National Sponge City program, establishing a turning point in urban design. This initiative shifted street trees from decorative additions to functional green infrastructure designed to absorb, store, and filter rainwater. The central government backed these guidelines with substantial capital. The Ministry of Finance and the National Development and Reform Commission provided direct funding streams while setting strict compliance rules. Under this framework, municipalities failing to meet a 70% rainwater capture rate faced funding cuts and administrative penalties. To make these ecological goals practical for local bureaucrats, landscape architect Kong Jianyu translated complex hydrology into simple, enforceable design rules. His model of letting nature do the work convinced officials that dense vegetation could replace expensive concrete drainage networks, making ecological planning legible to municipal leaders. Local governments quickly codified these guidelines into their planning rulebooks. Hangzhou's Green Landscape Plan mandated a minimum 30% street-level canopy for all new residential projects and required tree-lined sidewalks on all major road upgrades, backed by fines of up to 100,000 yuan for non-compliance. Chengdu integrated canopy targets directly into its municipal evaluation metrics, establishing a 40% downtown green coverage target. Local districts that missed these quotas faced immediate fiscal penalties. By embedding canopy volume directly into the annual reporting and evaluation systems of local officials, the state transformed the urban forest from an aesthetic luxury into a mandatory public utility. The barren state of the typical American arterial road is the direct mathematical consequence of a different regulatory engine. In the post-war era, municipal planning shifted toward single-use zoning, segregating housing from commerce, and prioritizing vehicle speed above all else. To support this car-centric layout, cities adopted minimum parking requirements. As urban planner Donald Shoup documented, these mandates forced developers to pave vast tracts of land for stalls, consuming the very space that could have supported roadside planting strips. At the same time, traffic engineers widened roads to maximize vehicle throughput, systematically eliminating center medians and sidewalk tree lawns. Where space remained, engineering guidelines actively prohibited trees. The American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, AASHTO, established clear zone standards. These safety rules define a recovery area alongside the road that must remain free of fixed hazards. Under these guidelines, a mature tree is classified as a lethal obstacle to a departing vehicle. Local departments of transportation codified these rules, legally barring plantings within 10 to 30 feet of the roadway. Beneath the surface and overhead, utility right-of-way restrictions further squeezed out nature. Federal regulations like Electric Reliability Standard FAC 0034 mandate strict clearance distances to keep branches away from power lines, while local ordinances prohibit root systems near water and gas mains. Fearing lawsuits from vehicle collisions or damaged infrastructure, risk-averse municipal agencies opt for the liability-driven removal of existing trees rather than paying for their maintenance or replanting. The result is a self-reinforcing legal and structural framework designed to keep streets empty. In Houston's historically black Third Ward, the regulatory absence of trees becomes a physical burden. Here, on streets with just 12% canopy cover, summer temperatures spike up to 20 degrees hotter than in the shaded, wealthier museum district nearby. This temperature gap translates directly into clinical hazards. The lack of shade traps stagnant, polluted air, driving up neighborhood asthma rates and triggering heat-related emergency calls. For families living on these exposed blocks, the environment punishes both health and wealth. While shade-draped streets nearby command a 5 to 15% property value premium, homes here face depressed appraisals alongside rising air conditioning costs. This stark divide proves that canopy loss does not fall randomly. It concentrates on communities already carrying the heaviest environmental burdens, transforming municipal road design into a direct daily measure of structural inequality. Designing a forested street is admittedly more than just digging holes. Below the pavement, water pipes and gas mains must be protected from aggressive root systems, while overhead power lines must comply with strict federal clearance rules like Electric Reliability Standard FAC 0034. In dry regions, expanding the canopy demands vast amounts of irrigation, requiring expensive, water-efficient drip systems. For thin municipal budgets, these physical realities translate directly into long-term maintenance costs for watering, pruning, and sidewalk repairs. But these technical hurdles are design problems to be engineered around, not a natural law dictating that streets must remain bare. This barren environment is not permanent. American cities are already using local policy to rewrite their streets. In June 2025, Atlanta's City Council passed Ordinance 24-0-1691 establishing a 50% canopy goal and forcing developers to either preserve mature trees or pay steep penalty fees. In California, Sacramento secured nearly $2 million in federal grants to fund ongoing maintenance, proving that shade requires active, funded public care rather than temporary volunteer planting. Meanwhile, Austin's strengthened tree code requires formal permits for any removal of trees 19 inches or larger, backed by a $5 million annual budget. By combining zoning reform, enforceable tree ordinances, and direct city council advocacy, these cities are turning street canopy back into a mandatory utility. It is proof that what policy broke, policy can fix. Today, America's barren streets are not an inevitability, but a policy choice. As global temperatures rise, these concrete corridors are becoming dangerous liabilities. The shade we live under reflects who our cities prioritize and who we choose to protect now. What does your street look like? Tell us below.